Welcome to my channel Living Librarian. I'm your host Dave. I'll be sharing knowledge about consciousness, spirituality, and life. Stay tuned.
Chapter 1, Questioning, by Devkumar, Podcast, Part 1 Inquiry. There are 5 chapters in this Part 1. The first step that any person who wakes up will usually begin to start inquiring about everything, the reality, and who they are. They want to know more about the source, or all that is. Analogy: imagine that there is polluted water in a jug. The water does not realize it is impure. This analogy relates to yourself. You are in a sleep-like state without realizing how much built-up emotions, limitations, and disconnection from the source you really are in. But once you start waking up, you start inquiring about everything. Similarly, the polluted water knows it's dirty and needs to clean itself up. Part 1 of this book deals with inquiry and answers basic questions. It aims to deal with the approach and process that you can take to reach a state of self-realization. Chapter 1, Questioning. Have you ever been in deep thought with a burning question about your life? Or came across a situation and wondered why it is happening to you? This was the case with me. I was born and raised in India. Every once in a while, from about the age of 15 years old, I found myself having a persistent thought. When I was doing something, like walking or being alone, the same persistent thought would occur over and over again. Often, I found myself thinking, I am alive and see physically through my eyes everything, but once I die, what happens to me? Am I nothing? Is it just as simple as this, or does something happen to my entire being that I need to understand while I am still alive here on Earth? There was no one to answer my query at that time. There was no such thing as the internet, or Google, to find answers to my questions. Of course, there might have been a few books to read, and the possibility of finding the information from libraries, or ashrams. However, I never sought those avenues out. Furthermore, India is greatly known for its spirituality. Scattered throughout the past and present, many great saints who were born there had become enlightened. Yet, I wasn't involved in or aware of spirituality at that time. At that age, I was more concerned with my daily subjects of mathematics, physics, and chemistry than the concept of spirituality. Fast forward to the future, I grew up, attained my degree, and moved to the United States. I started working and soon after got married. Being more occupied with my daily life, I didn't have much time to think about my deep burning questions within me until one fateful day. In 2007, my parents decided to come to the United States from India to visit my family and I. That year was the first time I witnessed death right in front of my eyes. It was a personal experience for me, the passing of my own father. When he died of cardiac arrest, I was in complete shock and overwhelmed with fear. On the outside, I appeared calm, yet on the inside, I was going through a lot of turmoil. Let me give you some perspective about my life before this incident happened. From childhood, my parents never took us, my siblings and I, to any of the funerals. As parents, they didn't want us exposed to any of these sad events. Coming back to the incident, the death of my father raised various thoughts and questioning myself, how could he die so suddenly? My father was perfectly fine the day before when I saw him playing with my daughter. Was it my fault that I could not take him to the doctor? The previous day, my father had a little temperature. When I queried it, my father said, "It is nothing, I have taken medication. I will be fine tomorrow. There is no need to go to the doctor." I trusted my father's judgment about his body, so I ignored the signs. Would he have been okay if I had taken him to the doctor's office? Why did he drink and smoke so much? Surely those bad habits would affect his heart considerably. Why did he die at such a young age? My father was only 65 years old. There were older people than him who were healthier and still alive. The morning of his death, I was in a rush to get to the office. I remember catching a glimpse of him playing with my daughter on the way out the front door. I should have stayed a little longer, perhaps spent more time with him. Where is my father now? Could he be here? In front of us, yet in a form that we won't be able to see him? Internally I started blaming myself, determined to make it my fault because I neglected him. But after all these years of spiritual exploration, I now know for sure that this incident was meant to happen to facilitate a turning point in my life. The incident changed the direction of my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been who I am today and wouldn't have been writing this book for you to read. They say, there is a written contract that we all agree to, that dictates that we plan to support each other's soul's evolution before we are born in this world. From that incident, everything started slowing down in a fast-paced environment. What I thought about the most important aspects of my life, such as my career, earnings, and survival, became secondary. The quest to find a deeper meaning of life started me on a new path. I started noticing my life from a different angle and was observing things happening around me that I never paid attention to before. Some of my observations were: 1. Happiness. Most of us try to find happiness through external means rather than seeking it inside. Statements will look like this: if I get a good position with a good salary, I will settle down and be happy. If I buy a house, car, have gadgets, and wear the latest fashion clothes, then I will be the happiest person in the world. Although, once you get what you are looking for, you become happy only for a while. Then you begin looking again for something else to bring you happiness. The cycle continues forever without an end. 2. Comparison. You always try to compare yourself with others. It's in our nature. For example, if any of your friends bought something and spoke over the phone about it, and how good it was, you will often get influenced. You find yourself wanting the same thing because they have it. Your thoughts do not take into account whether it's a necessity or a simple wantedness. 3. Being present. I've noticed that people most of the time will either dwell in their past or think about their future, but they never try to be in the present moment. I question myself, why can't I be in the present moment? I try to be in the present, but again my uncontrollable mind takes me into the past or makes me think about my future. 4. Complaining. People tend to complain about something or the other without realizing that their outside is a mere reflection of what's going on inside of them. For example, I notice that most people complain about their jobs, their commute, how they hate what they are doing. Most people want to do something else which they love, but don't take any initiatives to make those changes. Often they have a feeling within themselves that says it's too risky to make changes. They fear they may lose everything if it turns out to be a negative decision. 5. Influence. Everyone has been influenced in their life, including me, whether we realize it or not. From being peer pressured to hopping on the bandwagon. One time I heard from one of my friends that they got a security system because there was a break-in into someone's house in their neighborhood. My family overheard this, then forced me to buy a security system for our house, even though the event never happened to us but to someone else. Showing how much we get influenced by external events without knowing that everybody creates their reality. It was their reality and not ours. The largest influence I've seen is in media, movies, and games. Have you noticed that most of the media always shows more negative things happening in the world than showing positive news? Also, most movies or games are about fighting, killing, creating fear, or showing more negativity in ways of dealing with issues or circumstances. You, as an audience watching movies, or playing games, will get influenced and carried away without realizing how it affects your vibration, as well as the mass consciousness on this planet. You need to question yourself, what atmosphere do you want your kids to grow up in? How can they not be influenced by video games, shooting, and killing, if it is common in most games? Of course, there are positive impacts as well, but that percentage of the positive impact is small overall. If you look at the top sales figures for movies and games, most of them have a lot of violence and negative situations. 6. Beliefs. There were so many beliefs within me that I never questioned myself until that incident. Do any of those beliefs still hold any value or not? For example, I always believed that money would bring me stability and happiness in life. Yet now I realize it was not a belief that held any truth. Similarly, there are so many disbeliefs that we hold. Have you ever tried to look into those beliefs? Have you ever checked whether it makes sense to have those beliefs? 7. Sickness. Whenever you get sick, you always tend to look for a cure externally by taking medication or going to the doctor. Yet, you have never questioned yourself, what misalignment within me has caused the sickness? 8. Attachment. You might get attached to many things like money, property, power, places, people, etc. They can be hard to let go of easily because you treat them as your property and start accumulating more of those things. The thought process behind it is that it's going to be with you forever, although you are fully aware that you die empty-handed. None of the treasures you accumulate in this physical life goes along with you when you finally depart this world. Then why do you still hold to it and value it so much? 9. Life. One day, I was watching a black and white documentary about life in New York City in 1870. People were walking by and riding horses as a tram passed by. They were showcasing their daily lives in the city. As I was watching the documentary, I realized that none of those people are alive today. I found myself wondering where they are now, and this situation will be the same for all of us who are here on this earth at this time as well. In another 100 years, we will become part of history. Then what is our purpose of being here? You may have a similar story, a thought, or a burning question that you have been searching for the answer to. Ultimately, all these thoughts lead to bigger questions. Namely, who am I? Why am I here? What is my life purpose? Where is God? How did the entire creation happen? What am I supposed to do here? How can I be happy forever? Why am I not getting what I want? I want to be rich, so how do I manifest it? I don't like my job or my boss or my relationship. I need a change, but I don't know what to do. What career should I choose? I always dream, but I don't know the meaning of my dreams. Why am I attracted to people who always fight with me? How do I release my anger? What is ascension? Is he the right person for me? How do I guide my children? Do I have a soul? Why I always feel jealous of someone? How do I make the right decision? Is there a law of karma? Are there aliens or angels? Is there a universal law as such? What are the various paths to enlightenment? Where do I go after I die? Is there a heaven or hell? As human beings on this planet, where are we heading? I want to be spiritual, but I don't know where to begin. How do I raise my vibration? Why am I always sick? How do I heal myself? These are some of the usual questions that everyone ponders about, including me, at the start of my journey. I will explain the process of growth and reflection for some of those questions in various sections within this book. By Devkumar.